All right. It's Sunday, October 22, 2023, and it's about 10 o'clock in the morning. Kind of a lazy day around here, so I'm gonna do a little wet sanding. Nothing too, not too much work. I got 1000 grit. It's been sitting in some water. I have some Durablocks that I cut down, small, a little bigger. I also have a Festool. This Festool is basically, it's a denibber. It's made out of tungsten. It's extremely hard, but yet it's extremely brittle. You don't want to drop it. That's why it comes with a little leash. Wrap it around your wrist when you're using it. It has different, as you can see, I think, hopefully it picks up. It has a little curve right here. And then the other side is flat. This side is flat. So what you use that for is basically to denib. Let me grab a chair here. So on camera, I'm sure this paint job looks fantastic, and it is, you know, it is nice. But being in the environment that I paint in, we don't have a high dollar booth. We do get nibs, lint, and other things. So this clear has been sitting for probably a month. It was flow coated, so it's double clear. So it was three coats of clear. Then I sanded with 600 grit, the entire thing, 3 more coats of clear. And we have little nibs. They're all over. They're not bad. In fact, this is the worst right here. This was the remnants of a bug. I don't know how good that's gonna come out. We're just gonna have to live with whatever we have on that. But as you can see, it has little specks here and there, which is just dust or lint or pollen or whatever else was floating in the air. I don't know if the camera's gonna pick them up, but you know, you probably got on this fin right here, probably got 100 of them or 50 or something. But as far as the actual side of the car, not much. Not much, very little, because of it's vertical. When I re-cleared the trunk, I hung it vertical and sprayed it vertical, so there's less nibs on the trunk, but there's still some. Real small. So I mean, honestly, this paint job, it looks pretty good as is, you know, other than the nibs. And I've been kind of going back and forth about how I want to approach this. If I really want to wet sand and buff every square inch of the car, and I came to the conclusion, man, I wish this fly would leave me alone. I came to the conclusion that I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the fins and the trunk. You know, I'm going to do that, the full process. When it comes to the sides, you know, I don't think I'm going to do anything from here down, because we have the cruiser skirt. Now I'm going to do the cruiser skirt, but there's no point in wet sand and buffing this down here when, I mean, it already looks pretty good. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't think I'm going to do anything up under here, because wherever you sand, of course, you got to buff. And I'm really dreading trying to buff this out. That can be a nightmare. You can burn through without even without even realizing it. So when I re-cleared it, I did my best to really try and hammer it on, slick it out, so that I wouldn't have to buff. And I think I did a pretty good job. No runs at all anywhere on the whole car. So I'm probably gonna wet sand probably to about right here or so, and maybe try and feather it out a little bit or so. I don't know, maybe a little bit right here, but definitely not up in the concave. Here we can do, you know, no problem. Probably won't do much down here, because again, the skirt. Probably won't even do the rocker, because I have the rocker moldings that cover that up. You know, so just gotta think about what you're doing. Like I say, anywhere you put sandpaper, you got to put the polisher. You got to put the cutting compound and the polisher. So you don't want to go sanding areas you can't get to, you know, with the polisher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a Festool to denib, and then and then go over wherever I denibbed with 1,000, 1,500, or 1,000 on the nibs, and then 1,500 the whole thing, and then 2,000, and then 3,000, and see what we have. Might go 8,000. I've been looking at the 3M Trizex 8,000. We'll see. But today I'm just going to focus on the nibs. I'm going to take my time. Got all day. There's no rush, and go from there. So let me get you guys set up, and I'll show you how this tool works. All right. So I don't know how good the camera's going to pick up this process here, because these things are really hard to pick up on camera. But all you do is basically, like I say, you wrap this thing around your wrist. Comes with a leash, so you don't want to drop it on the floor. That's the last thing you want to do, because this thing will crack and then it's toast. So all you do, you want the tool to be flat. And all you're doing is basically knocking it off, whatever's there. Real minor. Here's another little one. The key to this is you want to have the tool flat. You don't want to dig at it like this. You want to get the tool as flat as possible, and basically just glide it across the surface. So we can go this side. And you want to do it until you don't feel it anymore. So technically, you really don't have to sand after this. I mean, I've seen guys that they just do this and then go straight to buffing, but really want to get this the best of my ability. This is my first time flow coating the car ever. Well, I flow coated like small stuff, but the entire car, it's my first time. And man, the clear really lays out, man. It's almost a shame to sand it and buff it. Like if this was a daily driver, well, if it was a daily driver, you probably wouldn't have flow coated anyways, but I would leave it like this. I mean, I wouldn't have the nibs in it, but as far as like the overall finish of the clear, the way the clear flowed out, I'd leave it. I wouldn't sand 1,500 and do all that process. So this clear's been sitting for about a month, like I say. And I don't notice any. I notice zero dieback or shrinkage. It's really retained its gloss. Temperatures have been, well, after I cleared it, temperatures were still in the hundreds. Now it kind of mild out. It's high around 90 some days. So I think the clear has done whatever it's going to do. It's been a month. And so I feel comfortable going ahead and sanding it. I may actually sand it today or over the course of the next few days and let it sit before buffing. Let it sit for like another week and gas out, because once you start sanding this clear, you can, if you smell it when you're sanding it, it's still doing its thing. So you don't want to wet sand and buff too soon. You know, I mean, we're talking restoration work. We're not talking collision. You don't want to wet sand and buff too soon, and then the clear shrink back on you, die back or whatever, as the solvents evaporate, and then you're you know, weeks down the line or whatever, the clear doesn't look like it did on the day you buffed it, because the clear is still shrinking, the clear is still curing. So so you can sand it, let it breathe. That helps the curing process, because basically you're reopening it. You're opening up so it can breathe, and then it's going to do a little thing. It's going to do its little shrinkage or whatever. Then you can buff it. Sometimes if the nibs are really big, I don't like using this tool. I'd rather use sandpaper. because say if you had a big thing land like a bug or something in the first coat of clear, and you pile on 3 more or 2 more coats on top of that, whatever is there, whatever landed, or whatever mosquito or whatever landed is still in that first coat. And if you go to rip them out with this tool, sometimes it'll rip too much. Like this one's a little bit too big. I'm not gonna do that. We're gonna sand that flat. You don't wanna rip stuff out, you know what I mean? If you rip stuff out, then you could go all the way to the base coat. And I've done that before. So if the nib is too big, I prefer to knock it down flat by sanding it. That's too big. Like I said, it's almost a shame that I have to sand this because I really like the way it flowed out. Man. I'm really impressed. SPI clear, Euro. You can use a razor blade. Razor blades serve the same purpose, I guess. You just want to tape the edges or sand the edges down of the razor blade a little bit, the corners of the blade. There's plenty of videos out there that explain that. Same thing, I guess. This is just a fancy tool that does the same thing as a razor blade. I think the tool was like $80 or something like that for this little piece of tungsten. Tungsten is expensive. It's a rare earth metal. So anyways, you guys get the gist of this. Oh man, excuse me, man. These allergies, boy, I tell you, man. So I'm just gonna do this whole fin. I'm gonna go over this whole fin right now off camera. Bring you guys back once I get that done. All right, so what I've done now is I denibbed with the Festool, and then I went over it with the real small block, Durablock, cut a piece off with 1000 grit, just on the areas that had the nib. And then I went back with a Sharpie marker and basically did some chicken scratch over the sanded areas, and that's gonna act as a guide coat. So next up is 1500 grit until the Sharpie marker is gone, a little bit past that. And then I think I'm just gonna do the areas in 1500, and then I'm gonna 2000 the whole thing. I really don't think that this finish needs that much. So 2000 the whole thing and see what we have, and then go from there. So right now, like I say, 1500 on the Sharpie markers until you erase the Sharpie marker, because without a guide coat, you really don't know how much to sand on the 1000 grit. And if you don't sand enough on the 1000 grit and proceed into the next steps, then when you go to buff, if your buffing compound isn't designed to remove 1000 grit scratches or 1200 or whatever, say your buffing compound is designed to remove 1200 grit scratches, and then if you don't remove the 1000 grit enough, and then you proceed to the 1500, 2000, 3000, whatever step you're going to, and then you go to buff, you're still going to have 1000 grit scratches because those weren't removed by the 1500. So that's the reason for the guide coat. So basically, or you can use dry guide coat, but I just swiggle a little bit with the Sharpie. All right, so I'll get my 1500 ready, bring you guys back once I do that. All right. So what you guys just saw, it might be kind of loud in here. I got the fan going. Is everything is in 1500. All the little nibs, 1500 right now. So right now, what I'm going to do is 2000 the whole thing. That's just to get rid of any little texture it might have, which is really kind of minor in my opinion. And you can see it or not. Probably not. But 2000 the whole thing, which is not an aggressive sandpaper. It's almost nothing. And then 3000. We'll go from there. Looking good so far though. Bring you guys back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put more Sharpie marker on the 1500 only, and then 2000 the whole panel. Bring you guys back. All right, so we're back. I got the whole fin in 2000, so I went over all the little nib areas first in 2000, and then I did the whole panel. I didn't use any tape. As you can see, I kind of stayed away from the edges. Really, there's no need to go all the way to the edge. You're just asking for trouble unless there's an issue on the edge, but even then that's really dangerous. I use this block here, which shouldn't be on the table like that. They sell these in the motor guard block, I believe. They sell them 2-pack on eBay. Pretty old, but they still do make them. So next up is 3000. So I'm sure there's a more efficient way to do this using DA sander and all kinds of special papers and stuff, which works and probably does save time. But when you really have time and you're not on a time constraint, I like to do it by hand, the whole thing. And I still use these 3M papers. They're pretty old. I'm in that sleeve like that. And I kind of stick to what I know to do. And I've tried DA sanding in the past, and it left a lot of pigtails. I chased my tail on that, trying to figure out why, or at the end of the day, I end up having to go over it by hand anyways. So I just stick to that now. So 3000 next up. This whole thing is going to go quick. You can use the block or not use the block. At that point, I think the block is more of a handle or something to hold on to versus actually cutting. And or you can just do it by hand. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Bring you guys back once we get to that point. All right, so we're back. It's in 3000 grit now. Once you get to the 3000 stage, you can start seeing more of a reflection. I use blue painter's tape to mask the edges out of an abundance of caution. Mainly because I'm gonna be using a new wool pad that I've never used before. It's an ACA wool pad. .3D ACA 100% lamb's wool pad on a Dewalt Rotary. And I mean, I had already been using the ACA 500 and 520, but this wool pad is designed for the ACA 500, which these are the same. I bought a small one, I don't know, about a year ago, and I'm kind of running out, so I went ahead and got a bigger one. And so these are the same product. Cutting compound, finishing polish. I'm going to use a black pad on this, which I don't have the ACA or 3D black pad, but I have plenty of 3M black pads. So brand new pad for this job. It's really soft, and like I said, I've never used it, so that's why I taped the edges here. I mean, I don't think we're going to have an issue, but just be cautious. So we're going to try and buff this out. So bring you guys back. I'll probably start on this end and then see how it acts, and then maybe I'll do some on camera. All right, so let me turn the fan off over here. So this is step 1, cutting compound, 500 ACA 3D. Could take that nib down a little bit more. I believe the antenna covers that one. It's just got the leftover residue on it. So what I'm gonna do now is take this tape off, wipe it down. Could use some more right here. I don't know if the camera's gonna be able to pick that up. A couple more drops right there. Hit it with the wool. Then I'm gonna take this tape off, wipe it down real good, and go on to the polishing. So bring you guys back once I start that. All right. So I've already hit it one time with the polish just to see how it acts. And right off the bat, I realized, or I found out that this stuff stays kind of glazy. It doesn't polish till it's completely gone. So it's a lot like the blue 3M. The blue 3M Ultra Fina swirl remover, if anybody's ever used that, it doesn't dry. It stays kind of glazy, and then you wipe off the residue with a rag. So this has the same stuff, same concept. So just gonna go over it again, even though it's already done. Demonstrate how I buff. It's kind of hard to explain, but I like to, as you're moving the buffer, I like to kind of like swallow the compound, swallow the drop, and then let the pad swirl it around. Swallow it, like, because if you're just running with the buffer and you just hit the drop, it's gonna splatter it everywhere. So a way to reduce that splatter is, like I said, you want to kind of swallow it. So I'm going to try and demonstrate that here on video. Alright, so as you can see, that was the machine polish, step 2 of 2, and it leaves a glaze on it. And you can sit there with the polisher and keep going, but I don't think it's ever going to come off. It's kind of like a lubricant, it seems, but it easily wipes off. So I don't know how much difference this is going to look on camera or not from when the car was actually painted, fresh out the gun, but it's definitely an improvement. And this took me 1 o'clock now, approximately 3 hours or so. So what I'm using now is a roll of microfiber towels. I picked these up at Walmart. You get the whole roll of 75 towels for $14. And like I've said previously in the video, at that price point, I use them and throw them away. Sometimes I wash them, depends on how dirty they get. But finish up with some Meguiar's detail. Missed a little spot right there with the compound. So in a situation like that, what I like to use for that is you can go by hand. Use a blue shop towel, just a regular old blue shop towel sold on a roll, and we'll see if this will come out by hand. Or you can go again with the buffer, but it's right here. You put a drop. Let me see if this comes out by hand. Almost. I'm sure it's not coming out on camera, but I hit that again by hand, it'll come completely out. So that's it for the top fin. I think I'm gonna go ahead and put the antenna on. Actually, no, I'm gonna wait on that. I need to wet sand and buff the trunk first. But yeah, so this process over the entire car. So this little fin right here took me 3 hours. So you can bank on this entire process for the whole car taking roughly 40 hours. 40 hours of work. So I don't know what people charge for this type of work, but it's 40 hours of labor. And actually, I sanded with 2000 grit. I didn't even go, 1000 the whole thing. It'd have been longer. So for little spot areas, I also have a Milwaukee mini polisher. This is a great tool to have. You can get in little areas if you're little unsure of your skill set. You can get in here with the mini and you won't burn any edges. Or you can possibly get in here with the mini without burning edges. This is a good tool to have. If you buy this tool, I would suggest getting the upgraded battery. Comes with a 1.5 amp, I believe, and upgraded to 3.0. They have 6.0 also. So that's going to do it for this video. I'm just going to wipe off all this residue. This top fin is done. All the nibs are gone. With the process I just did, you can duplicate these results. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more work.